Bungalow Bill here. So, I took a walk while my previous video, deconstructing the javelin, was rendering, and I have upgraded my impression of the weather. It is not just cranking, but nuking. It's not a good day to be outside. My phone says that it feels like 1 freedom degree, and I agree with that. So I've planted my butt in front of my computer where it belongs. I'm starting a new series today. I was planning on making a poll to ask if I should wait until I get some minor dental work done, since I have a bit of plaque and bacteria under the gum line, which is causing some minor swelling and low-grade fever. But I need 1,000 subscribers in order to post a poll, so I made the decision myself, and I'm going to be plowing through with the new series. In this video, I'm going to be starting Neater from scratch. That means no blueprints or prefabs that I have previously made in the designer mode. In addition, everything that I make will be built in real time in the campaign. Also, I'm limiting myself to wooden armor only. I plan on obeying the spirit of this rule, which means that I will not use other components strictly for armor. And I may put the AI between functioning steam engines, but I will not armor it with disconnected steam transmissions. I'm going to be selecting the easy difficulty, because I don't know how difficult this will be. Also, I'm hoping that this series will help prospective new players to make the leap from watching from the depths to playing from the depths. I think this game has a layer of mysticism around it because fully formed ships emerge from the ether with no context for how they were built. I'm hoping to dispel this and show that usable ships can be tossed together fairly quickly with low to moderate complexity. You may have come to expect a certain quality from my ships, perhaps not the highest quality, but nonetheless a certain level of quality. This series will not live up to those expectations. The ships are going to be built quickly, and they're going to look weird. I also don't know if this will make good content or not, so feel free to leave criticism or suggestions in the comments. I have talked at you long enough, so let's hop right into Neater. Yep, well, can't make the same mistake 2 times in a row. Reset the game constants. So, I was doing gun testing for another castle ship that I was working on, and that's why I accidentally had automatic detection set to 1 for my last video, and apparently in this one because I had, still forgotten to fix that. So, as always, when we start a new campaign, get rid of the rib because we don't need it. I'm going to dump in all of my commodities. They're really not enough to be helpful in the diplomatic things anyway, although it may have been rebalanced, may still be rebalanced, so that may change in the future. Anyway, this is not a particularly useful fortress, so I'm going to start a new harvester. I'm not going to make it a fortress, it's just going to be a vehicle. Perhaps I should make it a fortress. Well, I'm going to have to pull this out of place so that I don't build on it, because despite the fact that I was looking away from it, it was still a little bit too close. So, we'll drop down a wooden block. Just so that this doesn't sink, I'm going to press Alt-N to put in mirror mode. So this doesn't sink, even though that doesn't really matter. I'm going to put down a small wooden platform. Put down some material storage. The cargo container is way more volume efficient than the other ones, although again this doesn't matter, this is never going into play. Put down way too many of those. I'm not really caring about looks, all that I really want is for all of the functional components to be there. Resource gather, this is going to be a little bit overkill for this one, but I'm going to reuse this. Fuel engines, I'm going to put down fuel tanks first, just so that it'll actually be able to use fuel engines. These fuel tanks are complete overkill, but it doesn't really matter that much. I am not exactly good at making fuel engines. At least making fuel engines quickly. I can puzzle it out eventually. But we'll knock down the fuel engine generator. It looks like the peg is on this side, so that's where I'm going to put the crankshaft. This does not need much power at all. I'm mostly just going to be focused on tossing together a very quick turbo engine. So if you want to make a better turbo engine, you need to use the adapters, I believe. The in-game one, the Harmony, does. This is going to be a one that uses radiators, so I'm not putting exhausts on to cool. So next step, toss in some carburetors. Actually, is this even possible to make it efficient? No, I don't think it is. Alright, next step, toss in some carburetors. Cylinders attached to. They make it so that adjacent cylinders have more power. So I'll just put it between all of the cylinders. Hopefully these have all attached to 2. Good enough for me. And now the supercharger is here somewhere. I never remember what sides it attaches on. Carburetor is affected 4, that's good enough. So this is not a terribly... These are cylinders, not carburetors. So this is not a terribly efficient way to build this. I'm just trying to put this together quickly. I think I have a small supercharger engine in a harvester. I don't know if I put it up on the workshop or not. I usually put things up on the workshop, but this one I may not have. We have some stable power. Turn down the maximum RPM because it's a supercharger engine. It will not be efficient at higher RPMs. Power per volume, pretty gross. Power per materials, fine. The power per cost isn't going to be great either because I made this incredibly inefficient. But this is really good enough. It harvests things. Can't really move. I'm going to build it in place, although I may make it move slowly later. Sort of make it into a boat. Let's see if it floats. I kind of want it to float. Not that it really matters. I'm just going for wood buoyancy for floating it, which isn't the greatest, but should be functional. So really quick and ugly, but she floats, and she'll need a few repair tentacles so that I can build other things, so that I don't just destroy. Well, I can build things without them in this manner, but so that I don't just destroy my other harvester and then not have anything. Let's pull that out of play. I don't think it really matters because when I destroy it, the resources will be transferred anyway, but for some reason the starting fortress is set to a user. It probably just wasn't updated. Great, now we have a pretty big infusion of materials. However, I'm not going to start with a fairly expensive ship. Something to think about is that you really need a lot of wood to provide good armor. But I'm not just going to start with a large vehicle. Let's make sure that this gets its harvesting stats in, because it wasn't harvesting properly. Check now. Good, it appears to be working. Definite overkill on the engine. I'm going to save this so that I can reuse it in future resource zones, even though not terribly useful. No constructible to save. I suppose it probably needs to be in play. I will save the campaign, but let's save the vehicle first. Make a new folder for all of these. Yes, that button is not... Hitting enter closes the menu, which is sort of the opposite of what I want to do. Actually, probably save my vehicle outside the folder, then close the menu. I didn't look for it. This will also show me how much it costs. 4,000. Perfectly fine with that. It'll do what it needs to do, even if it is obscenely ugly. I wonder if it can move at all. Usually it'll give, 3 meters per second. You'll usually get a little bit of speed out of it. It doesn't really matter. I'll set it as a water vehicle. Well, let me save it this time. Oh, save campaign. Well, I'm going to save the campaign anyway. No, well, it doesn't matter that it's an air vehicle. So, next, I'm going to start on just a small craft to do a little bit of scouting, maybe light combat, capture tiles, that sort of thing. However, it's going to be incredibly fragile. So, let's drop it down. I'll put an AI block in. Similar to before, I'm going to throw in mirror mode. So, AI, a few things that I need at least will need to go into AI card slots. Not necessarily everything, but a few things. And I'm just going to be using, like in a lot of my vehicles, just sort of some easy AI cards. This thing is not going to have weapons that need aiming. So the detection on this is going to be incredibly limited. However, it still needs to be able to find a target to circle and that sort of thing, so it doesn't just wander off, and to know that it has one to fire weapons and roughly where it is. Put on a wireless transmitter so I don't need to connect this to everything else. This is basically going to explode if anything looks at it, so I'm not going to bother with some building techniques that I might use in some other vehicles. This is simply going to be too fragile. And I don't think that there is going to be the most that I can do about it. I don't really want to bother with a power plant and all of that sort of thing. So I'm going to throw in a small custom jet. And I just want one. So I'm going to throw it into the center. Now, I can never remember, or by looking at this when it's all blue, I can't actually see what direction it goes. So I'm just going to put in a small exhaust first, then toss in the necessary components. Not a lot of power behind this. I don't need it to drink fuel, go super fast, that sort of thing. So just one combustor, a jet controller. I don't want this to start drinking fuel, so turn that off. There's also no materials on it, so it doesn't really matter. Jet compressor, small intake, small ducted intake, duct corner. So we have that. Despite the fact that I'm going to put wood between... Should I even bother? I'll put wood between the AI and the ammo compartment. / fuel / everything else. Maybe I could put the ammo at the front so it'll just blow the front off. That's probably a good idea. This is not going to drink up much fuel, so just toss a few fuel boxes in here. I think these only connect in one direction. This isn't necessary. I don't actually have to put a second component on. Look to see which end. Actually, I'm only going to make this tall, so there's no reason to bother anyway. However, you do need a duct to make this work, so just slap a duct on. You can see that we still have clearance. I'm going to throw a bit of a nose on here just to separate the ammo from everything else. it won't really have much of a function beyond that. We'll see how much ammo I actually need. It probably won't be that much. I'll just slap a little bit on at first anyway. I'll give this thing some materials later. One of my favorite menuing tricks, if you hit R on a block, it'll change the current block that you are placing to that block. Then if you hit E, it'll almost always bring you to that place in the menu. I say almost always. It is not actually always the case, but usually. So we'll do some drag reduction. I'll try to at least make a little attempt, if not much, to, you know, make those the same angle. And then I'm going to take a few tail planes. I don't remember which direction is forwards. I think the little black things go on the back. This is probably overkill, but hopefully I can make it at least a little bit dodgy. This wood duct will add almost no additional protection because the wood duct, 8 armor, 90 health for 1 block. The jet exhaust, 400 health, 25 armor for 1 block. So yeah, you do the math. These tailplanes will get benefits from wood though. Right, tailplanes, 100 health, 1 armor. Like, the 1 block in the game that flak can actually kill. No, flak can kill wood too, but you know, it's not like I'm making this entire craft out of wood or anything. Oh, actually, I want this to be a complete pancake, so have to get rid of that. Seal this up. So far, just a wooden box. There's actually no point in trying to do anything with this, I suppose. Might as well just slap something on the end and call it a day. Alright, so a wooden box capable of propelling itself in the forward direction. And then take air, control surfaces. You can use custom control surfaces for anything, but ailerons will just automatically do the right thing. Find the center of mass. These are on sideways. The smooth side should be facing upwards. Well, that tooltip is helpful, I guess, because I don't know that. Really don't need much roll authority. It says roll left, which to me still suggests, oh, on the left side of the vehicle, all control surfaces will be reversed. This to me suggests that these are still upside down, but what do I know? I just place them and they just work. That's sort of the rule with ailerons. Obviously, you can do a lot to make things look good, but that is not the focus of this series. The focus of this series is to make things that work. At least in the first episodes, is to make things that work, right? Because I have to get off the ground fairly quickly. That's the main objective. I can't spend hours building a craft. I simply need to get something in the air that functions. And my next craft is going to be a bit more durable. It's still going to be horrendously ugly, but it's going to have some actual combat power. This thing, absolutely no combat power. This thing is going to be a bit of a disaster in that regard. I say absolutely no combat power. It's going to have a little bit. Very exposed. I'm just guessing about which direction's the front. I wanted medium rail launcher. Excellent. Let's give it an ammo load. Actually, it's somewhat difficult for me to feed this materials at the moment, so I'm simply just going to finish slapping this together a little bit. I do not need staggered fire for a single thing. So put friend or foe so that we don't shoot ourselves. All in one local weapon controller, so it'll automatically be connected. Is there a point in protecting these? Well, probably not really, given what I'm protecting them with. You know, a wood slope might as well be approximately nothing when it comes down to it, but I suppose it'll make me feel slightly better. You know, this nice friend or foe add-on just hanging off the bottom. 4 armor, 100 health. I mean, basically as good as wood. Pull this out of play. I will change its material assignment and such. It does not have much material storage. Set that quite a bit higher. Let's go back to building on that. Oh, Control R doesn't turn those blocks off in build mode. I wonder what it does. Now our missiles are in existence, so we can look at them. The default missile is not bad. So we can just work with it a little bit. I want APN guidance, 93% fuel internal volume, so that's fine. Because it's basically a fuel tank. One turn, same thing. Thrust duration 40 seconds, lifetime 20 seconds. Well, we don't need this much fuel, which means I can either put in something else, a warhead, something like that. I'm going to do a signal processor. Thrust duration is still higher than the lifetime of our missile, so I could either put in turning thrusters, or I'm going to make missiles can coast a little bit. 18-second thrust duration. I could probably turn the thrust up even higher, or even put it back down and take a fuel tank out, but I sort of want both of these things. So this will be good enough. I'll just use frag warheads. I will save this into slot 1. Let's make sure I click that properly. Go over to the other one. Load from slot 1. Let's check our okay, this is enough to fuel our craft. We need at least a small amount of detection. It does not need to be good at all. We need the approximate location of the opponent. And like myself, I have approximate knowledge of many things, which is often sufficient. I did not need to put the extra cards in, because actually I'll put something that's always safe to do. Put a wireless snooper in. I usually put it on the mainframe. It doesn't really matter that much. Excellent. Now I'm going to have to make sure that this thing works, is sort of the next step. We have liftoff. This thing barely works, but it does work. Let's not burn too much fuel. We're not going to be terribly fast either. Maybe I could turn up the thrust a little bit. Combat altitude 200. I can deal with that. Maximum approach angle 45. Combat distance 1000. I'll turn it down slightly. We don't want to get too close to this thing. Max roll to target. I'd like that to be 0, please. Adjustments, maneuver airplane 2.0. Pitch to target point. We're going to pitch to target altitude. This does not operate smoothly, and that's what we want, actually. That's why the darning needle sort of oscillates up and down the way it does, is because it uses pitch to target altitude, and it's not implemented in a way that functions smoothly. Now, this plane, to some extent, is going to be an exploration type vehicle. And you can tell that I haven't made this in a long time because I am trying to figure out where the antennae are. I was expecting to find them in miscellaneous. Apparently they are in AI. Does this have any... Oh dear. That's unfortunate. I was hoping it would have some drag reduction. Do the dish pieces have? No, they don't. This isn't going to have very good scouting capabilities. It just needs to be enough for the time being. How much does that change our cost? That's expensive, isn't it? No, it's not. We made ourselves expensive with missiles, I guess. This may change our vehicle dynamics a little bit too much. Hopefully we won't have to put on extra thrust. Put on some drag blocking. I should check to see if these actually do create drag. Well, yeah, so this actually might create drag through the entire section of it, which isn't something that I can actually tolerate at the moment on this craft. Beautiful. Oh, absolutely astounding. I've outdone myself. I can really just feel my building skills getting just beautifully honed into sort of the wonderful blunt and rounded edge of a wooden practice sword. I'm going to...
Moving out.
This went into the water. It's wood though, so it gets itself out. I didn't put a seat on it. We are having some drag issues. There are multiple ways to solve this. Our thrust is lined up with our center of mass, so that's not it. Our drag's a hair low, but it shouldn't be that bad. The lazy way to do it is to just change the angle on the jet exhaust. We're definitely having a little bit of trouble at slow speeds because I haven't given this any ability to maneuver when static. It needs to come up to speed first. It was trying to descend. This angle also might be a little bit extreme. It's not terribly maneuverable, so its angle to get to a target is a little extreme, but it's functioning now. Even against the Deepwater Guard, this is not going to be an effective craft. But it's our first craft, and it's functional, and we built it in like 10 minutes. So save the campaign, save the vehicle,
Moving out.
and we'll build a few more of these, and then we will get into our next build, which will be something that can actually fight. I'm not putting these into my quick build menu or anything. And if you've noticed, I'm not putting the BVS prefix in front of these vehicles. That's because I refuse to take ownership of these. We only need 2 right now, but I'll load in 3 more. We have the money.
Listening. Moving out.
I will get these built, and then we'll proceed to our next build. After the next build, so the next build is going to be very hasty. After the next one, I'm going to intend to get a bit deeper into building and start building craft that are better. These first few ones really just have to be really fast because we just need to start going. I've watched other people do this sort of thing, not with the wood requirement and not with the requirement of not using prefabs and stuff. And their problem has been they spend like 7 hours building something. And you can't do that. It just doesn't work.
Moving out. Moving out.
We'll get this guy as high as it'll go to give us a little bit better vision. These things don't provide good vision. I will build... Actually, I might not build a spy satellite. I may or may not. Maybe I'll build some sort of tactical vehicle or something. This is easy difficulty, so I don't have to be optimal all the time.
Moving out.
I can do things that are fun rather than things that are 100% good. Not that I'm going to do things that are bad just because I feel like I have to. Now, since we are still trying to go quickly, this next vehicle is still going to use missiles. So I'm going to build a missile boat, I believe. Something that I'll slap together very quickly. It is going to be made entirely out of poles. I have already decided that it is going to be called the Poley Warrior. I do not think I'm going to use air pumps. I think that this thing is going to be floated entirely based off of this just off of the displacement of the individual blocks. The Deepwater Guard don't use a lot of torpedoes, and we're going to be facing the first, so I'm just going to go with a double layer of wood on the bottom. I'm going to quickly throw down an AI compartment in the middle of the vehicle. Deepwater Guard also don't use EMP, so I'm not going to be worried about that. I will start to have more considerations as I get further in. Also a missile cruiser, so I don't really even need as many AR card slots as I've put in here. I could probably take some off. As for previous, I will put in a wireless transmitter. And really, for AI card slots, I only need to use them for these. Everything else, including the general processing card for some reason, will plug into a connector. They're basically the same thing anyway, so... Plug and play card. This would probably be better if I made it a frontal ship, but ships are supposed to broadside, so we'll do that. Doesn't need aim point selection, but it needs target prioritization, so it makes a sane choice. I'm leaving them as the default because the default's fine for things that use radar-guided missiles, since it'll choose something that'll probably have a big radar signature, which is probably what its missiles will want to go after. I'm going to move into different missiles later that, just looking around my microphone to check the time, that I can send towards different targets, so that means remote guidance because I've had no luck with the infrared seekers. So we'll slap in those cards. I'm also not doing intra-vehicle transmitters because it doesn't really matter for these vehicles. Maybe I should put torpedoes on this one. But I don't like torpedoes, that's the problem. This craft is going to need engines. I do think that an engine like this is going to be such massive overkill that I can't really justify it. However, I am going to sandwich my AI between engines. This does mean that I'm going to be building my own engine. It's going to be as bad or worse as the engine that I had before. It's going to be smaller, though. I really think that this engine doesn't need a lot of length. I'm just going to put a little resource block under it. I did that the last time and I forgot to get rid of it. Such is life, I guess. I swear that the radiators aren't being used as armor. Absolute promise. Why am I doing this? There is definitely the issue, which is why people like Borderwise don't do live commentary, and why, depending on how you feel about your comments, I may switch away from doing live commentary. I can't talk and think at the same time. I really can't. Also, as I've said, when I've been looking through sort of other crafts, sometimes in my craft, sometimes I've made this comment with respect to the Javelin of don't do things this way. Please don't build these engines. If you're not building things in 10 minutes, 20 minutes, that sort of thing, with no prefabs, you need to do better than this, you really do. This is going to be 1800 power. That is something that I can absolutely live with. Excellent. Now, see, the thing is, we need to have coal bunkers. We just, need to have something like this. So, obviously, not being used to protect the AI, just not using this as armor, that's definitely clearly a thing that I'm not doing. This is definitely just because I need resources on board. All right, we've got power, we've got AI, we have poles. So what's the next step? The next step is I need missiles. I'm also going to need an extravagant amount of wood. I'm going to go with medium missiles again. This time, I don't really care as much how much room they take up. This ship is going to just have a lot of volume to it. Probably not be that expensive, though. I'm going to build them in small banks. Because the thing is, and I should probably separate them even more than this, but I don't want to go too ham on the volume. Actually, I can prefab these. I'm just going to do this once. So, I don't want to go too ham on the volume for any given craft. And at some point during this build, I should probably check on the overworld map and that sort of thing, but we'll see. 1 layers, 2 layers, 3 layers, 4 layers, 5 layers. See, I have to compare this health and armor to that of wood that I'm surrounding it with. These These are so much more durable that I always use these. And I'm still going to do it here, just out of habit, I guess. But the thing is, when I'm building everything out of wood, these are useless. Explosive damage is just going to be done to the wood. And kinetic damage... Well, kinetic damage is going to shred through the wood. Wood is very efficient health per cost, though. So if I really spam the wood, it can be pretty good that way. Just like I'm putting a staggered fire add-on. Not many missiles, so I'll crank it up. This is more of an aesthetic concern for me. All in one because I'm lazy. It would be more cost effective for me to not use it. I'm going to put it up here. Put a few poles in that sort of fill in the space. Now, let's see what I want these to be like. We're going to use active radar seekers again. We're not going after super maneuverable targets. I could probably take it down to 1 fin. I think I'm going to use 2, but I could take it down to 1. We'll have APN guidance. We're going to have a 1 turn. And we're going to have a signal processor. The Deepwater Guard do use flares. They don't make heavy use of flares, but they do use flares. This vehicle... Maybe I could use flares on it, maybe I couldn't. I might put a small number of interceptors on it. It's a very, very easy thing to do to add protection. And I already have the restriction that I can only use wood. That's even worse than the Deepwater Guard. Thrust duration, 35 seconds. We don't need another fuel tank. So explosive warheads spawn the explosion in the average position of the warhead, so you want them as far forward as you can possibly have them. Fins also give you more turning the further they are from the center of mass of the missile. I've been told that they don't count the thruster for that, so that this fin is as close to the back as putting one here would be to the front. And I want my warheads to spawn their payloads as close to the enemy as possible. The frag warheads, I can accept these being further back. We can turn up the thrust a little bit. Oh, something I forgot on the other one. I made this comment on the Javelin, and I just didn't do it. I'm going to turn up the guidance activation delay. This combined with the 1 turn will allow it to point at the enemy. Then turn on the guidance. That means it'll be more likely to actually go after what the ship is aiming. And combined with the signal processor will make it highly resistant to flares. We'll copy that to all matching launch pads. I will save it in slot 2 so that I can paste it over to this other side, which I will then copy to all matching launch pads. That only copies to connected ones. 20 missile firepower. Let's bring up the prefab mode. It's the same size as the Harmony engine because that's what I had last. 3 width, 2 height, 7 length. I'll actually space these out a bit. So how much is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. Put one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I did an excessively bad job of counting that. Just say that the edge of the ship is here somewhere. You're about to see some of the laziest construction that you've ever witnessed. Oh, whoops. Well, now you know what I'm doing, right? You didn't even get to, see the gag at the right time. 55,000 cost, 77 firepower, 2,000 volume. I don't want to make her too big, so pretty soon I'm going to see how she displaces. This is as fast as I can click. I used to have a friend. I say used to have a friend. I guess we're still friends. He moved to Seattle, so it's kind of hard to connect with him, but he could click so unbelievably fast. He could pretty easily, in Super Smash Bros. Melee, make Luigi go as high as he's capable of doing, which is 13 taps per second, he would smoke me in Pichu's power plant in Pokemon Stadium. I'm being really stupid right now. I have the technology. Beautiful. Beautiful. The Poley Warrior takes shape. You have to remember, this is probably equivalent to like 2 layers of alloy. And I'm not going to bother to shape this. This is just what she's going to look like. And everyone is going to have to accept that. She is beautiful. She's beautiful just the way that she is. There are multiple things that you can do for drag reduction, right? So I don't want her to be... There are certain volume constraints, regardless of how you feel about big is beautiful, but there's sort of multiple ways to bring a prow in, and this is the one that I'm going to do right now. It's not terribly large. It may be hard to notice watching a recording like this. I dropped frames right there. That was why I wound up placing that in the wrong spot. It was a very bad frame drop too. This is where I use the prefab tool. Just for all of you guys at home. You know, do as I say, not as I do. Because these layers are all exactly the same. But this is... See, I'm grooming myself to be manager material, so I really have to practice telling people how to do something correctly and not being able to do it myself. It's a highly important quality. It's how you justify delegating tasks. The way that you fundamentally separate yourself from your employees. Although I suppose I will always be an employee. I will probably never have my own business. I did say I was going to make her entirely out of poles. It has been determined that I'm a liar. I'm trying to figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. My brain is not processing such concerns, though. All that I can say... Oh, now Dune is popping into my head. I'm the Kwisatz Haderach. That is reason enough. That's not quite the quote. That's definitely a misquote. It's also... probably not going to make it into the movies because it's from the whole writings of the Princess Irulan, which aren't in the movies. A little disappointing. I think they want to just like not have narrations and stuff in the background, and I can understand that, but it's not a good movie. I did watch it. My dad paid $20 to rent it while I was visiting them over Christmas break. And not good, not a good experience. I saw an old friend of mine actually over Christmas break, and he said he'd watched it like, oh god, I don't even want to say, if I can remember, like 7 times or something. And he asked me how I thought of it, and I said it was awful. And he asked me why, and I said sort of the basic reasons that I thought, and he said that he agreed with me. That obviously leaves me with a lot of questions of my own. Oh yes, we're 50 minutes in, and this is the kind of quality that we are producing right now. I have truly outdone myself with this series so far. question, do I want... Do I want bow or stern thrusters, or do I just want... I could turn with rudders, I could turn with bow or stern thrusters, or I could turn with these propellers. We're going for the one-click pit stop here. I could protect them from the side as well, with wood, for all the good that would do me. But then I'd have to put more drag reduction in. Laziness is certainly the name of the game right now. Now, we need a superstructure of sorts. I'm probably not going to put all the detection there because I need this thing to not just lose all the detection right at the beginning when the superstructure explodes. I'm trying to ask myself what pagodas look like, and my brain is just coming up with not a number or something. Because I feel like I need a command pagoda. Yeah, something went wrong at some point during this procedure. This is what I get for not using photographs. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. The command pagoda. I'll actually put a chair. I need an elevated chair. This is getting too expensive for what it is. Place me in the captain's high chair, fetch me the captain's bib, and warm milk. We are going into battle. I didn't put ammo in this yet. Thank me for reminding myself. Yes, we're going to the 2x2 ammo box. There is... How many of these do we need? About 7. I have no idea how much wood you need to make these not detonate each other. The answer is probably all of it. Just all of it. I'm also not going to make sure that this actually fills in well. That ship has really sailed already. Amazing. This ship, however, has not yet sailed. So this is actually somewhat more respectable than I was expecting. Oh boy, we might have to calm those engines down a little bit. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, calm down, calm down, calm down. Power use times 0. I was hoping that would be times 1. This is a little bit wasteful. I could just have fewer propellers. So the reason that we're flipping up like that is because my line of thrust is so low. It's so low because the water level on the ship is so high that I can't really put these any higher. This is going to change in future ships. Future ships are going to be a little bit better in this regard. I'm assuming... No, we have plenty of materials nearby. I was wondering why we're not getting... Oh, we're not getting more procurement because I haven't done this yet. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons right now. You can tell I've been playing too much from the depths today.
Control source. Moving out.
It's in air mode.
Water mode in your
Actually, I'm just going to add maneuver this way instead. Add shipper tank. Fantastic. That speed is adequate for me. Please don't go too far away. Let's turn the movement back off. Now I need a little bit of detection. That's what I put the pagoda on for, but now that I've put it there, I don't think I'm actually going to use it. Sub-objects. Thank you, me. One-axis turret. All-in-one weapon controller. Get mirror mode back on. I really don't need coincidence rangefinders in this craft. I will acknowledge that. But it doesn't mean that I can't have them. I can have whatever I want to. You know, it's like when you go into the supermarket and there's a... Oh wow, my rangefinder's pointing down. This is actually sort of works well with where I was going. When you go to the supermarket, there's a lot of ingredients there. You could make anything. There are very, very few restrictions to what you could actually cook yourself if you're willing to go through the effort at the supermarket. However, you can also just buy frozen pizza, which I often do. And this sort of really combines with what I'm doing here. This is frozen pizza. The series is not always going to be frozen pizza. However, we're not blocking this. However, there will be frozen pizza today. There may also be frozen pizza tomorrow. However, I am not actually just going to live my life with frozen pizza. Thank you for the new folder button being all the way in the bottom. All uppercase. I am just in that sort of mood right now. Let's just yell a little bit. Excellent. Still can't do it. Well, we'll just have one detection mask today. In designer mode, I would do destroy all and rebuild the vehicle, and that would work. We are not in designer mode. In fact, we do not have access to designer mode. Really, I just need a few things scattered all over the place here that will allow this to actually see things. Not necessarily see things well, but to see them. Looks like now that I put the ammo in, we're a little bit more front heavy than I'd like. Not terrible though. I think I want active sonar. We have a hole here, so let's use it. Now we're using up a fair bit of our GPP now. I don't feel that wasteful at the moment. I can stop yelling. Build the Poley warrior. Maybe I should put an E here. I feel like I've misspelled the Poley warrior. Yeah, there we go, the Poley warrior. Wonderful. It floats. That is all I could have asked for. Actually, this vehicle See, this is something that I do have issues with to a small extent, and maybe I should not abuse it for this reason, but these are too cheap. These are actually just too cheap. And they're not too cheap by a little bit. I think that repair tentacles are off by orders of magnitude. You can just throw these onto vehicles. I'm not going to put that many on. I still want to keep the cost down a little bit. But I want this to be able to build the next outpost once I go and rip it from the Deepwater Guard's cold dead hands. Oh, I'm going to have to record a max speed. Whenever I save the ship, I should save the campaign, because if I have to go back to a previous save in the campaign because I lose, well, actually, I'll probably just give up if that happens. But if I have to do that, I can't use the vehicles that I've created. So when I save a new vehicle, I should always save the campaign, and that includes if I crash or that sort of thing. Like if I make a vehicle, save it, crash, go back to previous save, that might buy me extra hours in the campaign mode. So I can't be doing that. Let's go in a straight line and get up to our top speed, please. Looks like I'm gonna have to be content with. I can turn my engines up a little bit more. There we go. I'll be content with this. It's slow, but it's not save campaign. That's where save vehicle is in the designer mode, if you're wondering. I never build in the campaign, so I'm not used to it. Great, we've already captured some squares. Okay, so the immediate issue here is that I don't think I want this much money, right? So that's actually a huge issue for me. So instead, I could do this. This means that I would have to compete with the Onyx Watch for land in the Deepwater Guard. That's also an issue for me. I want all of the land for myself. Something like this might be more interesting. So what I would suggest is that if you're really just trying to win, right, with this amount of materials, I could just immediately build a vehicle that I could kill the Onyx Watch with. Right now, and they would die. And then I could just immediately call a new meeting. And if I was given commodities again, I could do it to someone else. If I don't capture that much from the Onyx Watch, they would probably give me more commodities again, right? Because I just don't have much, like, if I haven't captured anything yet. So I could probably roll a bunch of commodities and knock off a few factions right at the start. However, I'm going to do this for a few reasons. One is that this starts to get these factions kind of into the game. So the Lightning Hoods and the Twin Guards will start building ships. If I don't do this, they are not going to build ships. They're just going to hoard all of the resources until I eventually declare war on them. Because factions don't really, except for, the Grey Talons and the Scarlet Dawn, they don't really fight each other anymore. They don't have diplomacy outside of the player. So I'm going to want to choose these options that have lots of factions to get the factions involved, to get them fighting, to get them spending resources. Otherwise, they'll just bank all the resources. All the resource zones will run dry because there's no replenishment, and neither will just start to stagnate. So choosing one of these options that gives me a lot of commodities because they're just absolutely unbalanced and broken is the right thing to do. But I think this is a better option to have fun and to make content. These commodity costs are horrendous. It's known by everyone at this point that I was really surprised when the Diplomacy beta actually went live because it wasn't ready yet, and I think everyone who's playing it on beta knew that it wasn't ready, and it just completely blindsided me that it was going in. The reasons are both how these commodity systems work in general, as well as the fact that the factions don't do anything without you. It's a dead world. They have no action. They have no agency. They don't do anything. I think even the choice of having these historical zones that they don't infringe on each other, I don't think it was good for replay value, especially. That, if it's your first playthrough, it's sort of annoying if the Scarlet Dawn just dies before you get to them. But it was so much more dynamic when the factions actually fought and killed each other and tried. They just don't do much anymore. Anyway, War with Onyx Watch, relationship improvement. This is interesting. My relationship, it's suggesting we'll get better with the people that I'm going to war with, and we'll do nothing with anyone else. Excellent. This leaves only White Flares and Steel Striders as neutral. I'll try to do something else about that later. I do think it's still a little bit of a problem that the Lightning Hood and Twin Guard are teaming up. That is non-functional for story reasons. And the Deepwater Guards teaming up with the Onyx Watch. The Diplomacy doesn't work that way, but we'll move on. So I've been recording for about an hour now. I don't know exactly how much I'm going to tune that down to, but although this hasn't been the most eventful episode, I do think that it's enough for the time being, and that I'm going to end this episode here. And the next episode, when I pick it up, hopefully I'll start to actually get into some fights. But this one was just sort of setting things up, building my first few craft, getting ready. Regardless of how long I play this first episode, I don't think I'm actually going to get into a fight. And it could go absolutely disastrously, and that's going to be sort of part of the fun, that I'll commit to posting this episode so that I can't go back. And who knows what's going to happen. Right? I haven't tested these vehicles at all, and I'm not going to test them. I don't know if my weapon systems fire. I have no idea. I could get absolutely bodied. Whoops, the Poley Warrior is not what I want to redirect. It was this Scout. So, plan for next episode. Get a bit better vision. I may never make a spy satellite, but make some sort of... Maybe not even immediately. Maybe I won't do it next episode. At some point, I'll make something with better vision. But I need to start working on some more solid vehicles. These vehicles are unfortunately, and somewhat intentionally, not very good. I might leave the Onyx Watch alone for the time being. If I capture them, they'll send things against me, and I'm going to pick one fight at a time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this new series. Please leave me feedback about if you think this will make decent content, if there are things I can do better with it, that sort of thing, or just general adjustments that I can make, because this is very new territory for me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the future.